What is happening, everybody? I'm going to answer the questions about the desk here in a video because it's easier than typing the same answers over and over again. So this is the 4 computer desk that I built out of scrap wood. So mostly I had a bunch of these 3/4 inch by 6 inch and however long pieces of lumber and some, just odds and ends, some plywood and subflooring, all kinds of different stuff. So I built it with that. I'll explain the rat's nest of wires here in just a bit. So everything that you see here, for the most part, is just made out of just scrap stuff that was laying around. The shape of it was pretty much dictated by the glass. So I found the glass on Facebook Marketplace, and it was $15 for all of the glass. It was a display cabinet, so these pieces were the shelves. That's why there's a seam in the middle of it. They were just a shelf part of it. And then this was the door. So underneath the monitor there, you might be able to see it right there. There's like a little cutout right at the top of my finger. That's the little ground out handle that you slide it back and forth with. So that's how I got it. I got the glass for 15 bucks. The rest of it was scrap. 3D printed some stuff. I'll get into all that. So, the question everybody says, "Ooh, why do you need 4 computers?" Well, I use 4 computers. So rather than having towers sitting on the floor and there's a tower on the desk and then there's another tower somewhere else and then so this was my solution to that, and it was kind of fun to build too. So I've never seen a desk with more than like 1 computer in it. So as far as I know, no one's done it except this one that I'm aware of. So I'll just kind of go through it all. The computer that's here on the end is a 4th gen Xeon CAD workstation. It was a Lenovo S20 that I cut the case out of and had to modify a few things, but that's what it is, Lenovo S20. 16 gigs of ECC, 4th gen Xeon, FX 3800 Quadro up there. So I actually did get another Quadro from a Reddit user, which is in here, ready to go in, so I can SLI the FX 3800 Quadros, which should be pretty cool. So I'm going to do that. This is Windows 10 Ryzen 2700X on a Crosshair 6 Hero Wi-Fi. This is my old system, which is a 3770K that's all overclocked on a Maximus 5 Gene with 16 gigs of Vengeance. This has got 16 gigs of T-Force Delta, I think. And this is my server, which just serves up all my files and media, runs game servers, things like that. Essentially, it just does all the things that a server does. So it doesn't suck up a bunch of dust here, and it's out of the way. So that's the 4 computers. This one is mainly, why run an old 3770? Well, there are some programs and games that just won't run on Windows 10. So that's the whole reason. I use things that can't run on Windows 10. If I've got all these computers, these cool ones, why do I have this 4th gen Xeon, workstation? Well, it's because of this mouse, really. Sorry, my hands are dirty from pulling fuel injectors today, so I'm not gross, so I can't wash that off anymore. So this is a 3D Connection mouse. It's for doing CAD work, and the deal is that you can pull up on it, so you can kind of pull it up and squish it down and move it around and jog with it and stuff like that, up and down. So if you plug this mouse into a computer that has mice and stuff already plugged into it, it like totally makes everything go screwy. So that is why I have that mouse, or this workstation. is mainly because I want to use that mouse with it, and with my 3D printers and stuff I can connect the printers directly to this. It's isolated from that. If I want to do rendering of videos or editing or anything, or any long-term heavily computational task or whatever, I can do it all on the 2700X, or I can throw it on the Xeon and just let it run. Then I can kick over and play an old game or something, you know. So there's lots of options now that I have. So that's the reason why. And as far as cooling goes, she's cooling pretty good. This is a 1070 Ti, so the GPU looks like, what is it at? GPU core 50, and then 27 on the CPU. So it's just kind of kicking on a little bit. Yeah, so anyway, the 3800, FX 3800 Quadro, all that, 1070 Ti, 980 Ti, and then nothing over there. As far as cooling goes, they kind of had to get creative with a lot of this stuff, especially with the video cards and the liquid coolers. So I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on the pumps, so my cheapest solution was to use closed loop coolers and just modify the lines. So you're not really using the pumps to build head pressure or raise the water level a lot. I'm not trying to push it through massive dense radiators or anything. This is all just stock stuff. So that's the 240 that belongs to that pump, and that pump belongs to that 240, and the same with everything else. So you just essentially just run new lines. So that's all I did, is I cut the existing tube, I cut the stock tube off of the regular, closed loop liquid coolers. These are just Cooler Master ML240s, Cooler Master ML120s. I got some clear, I don't know, PET tube or whatever it is from Lowe's, and cut them up and stuck them on. Right now, well, these fittings on the 240 are 3/8 inch barbed fittings. The older style 240 or 120s also have 3/8 inch fittings, but on the 120s, all of these pumps all use 1/4 inch. Well, this one, I'm sorry. Yeah, right. So this is 1/4 inch tube. I had to get the adapter and put them in so that they would match the there they are, the barb fittings on these reservoirs. So that's kind of that. Same thing over here, 1/4 inch fitting, a 1/4 inch nipple on that, and it had to get spliced together with a reducer so that it would match the smallest fitting for the Swiftech reservoirs. So that's what I did. That's pretty much it. Other than that, you just cut the tubes off, you drain out the loop. It looked like it just had stock automotive antifreeze in it. It was bright green like normal automotive antifreeze would be. Cut it out, or cut the tubes, drain it all out, flush it all out, get everything good, refill it with distilled water, and I forgot what dyes I used, but just cheap UV reactive dyes just to give it some color. Other than that, there's nothing fancy in there. It's just dyes and distilled water. So that's kind of it. I don't have any clips on the tubing because I use 5/16 inch tubing. So the inside diameter is 5/16 instead of 3/8, which is a little bit smaller. They're a monster to get on, but they're not going to go anywhere. So they won't even probably stretch that much once they heat up, because they don't even get that hot. I've gamed on it. I think the highest it got was 50. That was it. So I was like under full load, and that was about it. So all these things are just standard power supplies. I kind of have these like, so it's unfinished right now. There's supposed to be like a cable guide I'm going to 3D print for that to kind of cover up some stuff, but all of the wiring is hidden underneath these kind of wooden like false bottoms, just to kind of give it a little bit of difference in color, make it look a little bit neat. This 2700X has an NVMe in it, so I got a lot of storage drives. As far as the fans go, I 3D printed these boxes for, I just kind of designed up some boxes, and I bought these 3 amp PWM fan controls, or well, they're motor controls or fan controls, and then just mounted them up in there. So if I want to turn on that 240, there we go, and I can adjust the speed of it to whatever I want. So I can lower it down, shut it off if I want to. This one isn't hooked up yet. It's going to go to a fan in the back. This one controls these fans here, so you can see it's already on. I can shut it off. Now they stop. So that's it. So kick it on. Away they go. So they're angled so that it will bounce the air off of the top of the glass and then back down onto the motherboards. So I can cool the VRMs and give a little bit of fresh air in there. Also, I 3D printed these ducts, and there's some fans back there that will force air in and blow it directly over the top of the VRMs and chipsets. Like this one, I had to design and 3D print that chipset cooler because that chipset was getting like 225 degrees. So that's it. That cools the chipset real nice, blows air over the board. My initial thought with this would be that the fans here will force air into this like central box or case. The fans in the back here for the chipsets will force air into it, which would then kind of pressurize this central box area. And then my idea or my thought was these water loop channels and cable channels here would cause this pressurized air in the center to be forced through and then exhausted out through these fans here. Just kick the fans on and let them go, and hopefully it would just draw air through and out the other side. So that was my theory. I've got 2 fans here on this side, which are controlled by the motherboard on this computer, on the 3770. So they're really low amperage fans, so it's not an issue with driving it right off of the chassis fan header on the board. Same over here. Got a little intake port here that will allow it to draw air in, blow across the hard drives to cool them, and across into the motherboard, and same type of deal. It would get exhausted out through these fans. So that was my original idea. That also is controlled by this computer's chassis fan. I'm sorry. Did I say that these were controlled by this? Sorry, I made a mistake. These are controlled by that, and those are controlled by that. So it blows air across the hard drive and all that. So that's it. The 3770 gets a 240. The server, since it doesn't really do a whole lot, gets a 120. Same deal over here. The 2700X gets a 240, and the Xeon, even though the Xeon runs way hotter, that just gets a 120. I don't think it's going to ever really get super hot because there's not a ton of demand on that. But once I have my 3D printers hooked up to this, I can let it go. It's running just Windows 7, but it'll never get updates and it'll never shut off, all of that stuff, so I won't have to worry about it interrupting a print. This one is running Windows 10 Pro, 10 Pro, and then 7 Pro. So all that, pretty cool. I did make some drawers that pull out. So you just store all your crap in here. I have some black vinyl, like car wrap. So what I'm going to do is just cut the vinyl to this length here and then stick it on the underside. I might do a cool design on it or something underneath, so that will essentially black this side out, or I can make it any color I want. I do have some gray and orange, different colors, so then it'll black this out so you can't see inside of the cabinets or the drawers where you're gonna store all your crap. So that's kind of it. As far as the shelves or whatever you want to call them, these are cat beds for these guys, right? So I made these shelves under here for the cats to lay on. So there they are. So they'll be able to lay on that. These things that you see here are from IKEA. They're actually like little sisal cat scratchers so that they can scratch on these. So these are actually built to be cat scratchers and cat beds. I have some this foam back carpet that's really super plush and cushy, and I have it just the right size so that once I go get it, I just lay it down there, and they'll have like a strip on there for the cats to lay on. And then these will be wrapped along the legs so they can reach up and scratch on it and enjoy it. And they can also lay up here because they want to be around me and us when we're doing stuff. So they'll get to chill out on these end pieces here. I also built it modularly, so these sides here, they're both pods. So that bolt there, it's focusing on my finger. We should have had manual focus, but take out that bolt there. There's 3 screws in the back here, and basically the pod just pops off. You just remove these 2 water loop lines here, and this whole side will come off. It's designed to have those feet, the legs, the supports this part. You can just move those inboard underneath here and you're good to go. Unplug a couple lines from the switches, and then this thing can just be taken right off. So if you need to move it or whatever, you can just, pull them off. If I wanted to have it just as an L to fit in like a corner or something, I could do that. The other way, I could do that if I didn't want to use the server anymore, or the Xeon dies or whatever. So that's what that's all about. Oh, and it's all cool RGB remote controlled. So you can do whatever you want with it, I like the red. The red's cool at night. Oh, there we go. So we'll leave it on red for a bit. The back was kind of a challenge. So the mess of wires you see is mostly for testing. There's a box, like a channel, that goes and attaches to the bottom rail here, which is the basic frame of that supports just about everything. There's a box there with these like little whisker things. So the cables will come off of whatever, go down inside of this box channel, run down to the end, and then come off. So right now I kind of got everything all in just a mess. But that's what will happen eventually. I 3D printed some fan mounts for all the stuff. The IOs all fit really nice, except for that server never had an IO when I got the motherboard. And then I ran into kind of an issue. I got this Cat 6 line. Comes into my main 2700X, but I forgot. I kind of want the other ones hooked up too. So I bought this little Tenda gigabit cheapy switch, which will be mounted pretty much wherever I can find, maybe underneath or at the end or on top of that cable run box, and I'll be able to just run the Cat 6 into it, and then all of the other ones will get popped into it too. So that's pretty much it. The top monitor stand I built myself. I just needed one and I didn't want to buy one. So sorry about the awesome reflection with my crazy hair. I haven't had a haircut in a while. So I just kind of designed one up and built it. It's fully adjustable in and out, tilts, moves up and down. So the spine here I reinforced really well and bolted it all in underneath, and tried to hide everything as much as I could. So it's nice and rigid now. not ultra rigid, but pretty rigid. It doesn't move. I made a terminal block, which doesn't look too bad. Has 6 amps running to it. Runs the fans, the LEDs, different things. So just have like a old Comcast power brick that I scavenged from somewhere. This is where the other 3800 will go. Oh, this is still the aluminum piece. There we go. There's the 3D printed wood stuff. Oh yeah, so that was kind of it. I'll mount it up, cut some aluminum, and then made the power supply braces for the back to keep them in, and they have holes underneath. Oh, that one is on the top, that's right. So, yeah, that one's really super close to the edge. That one's alright. So they draw air in and it shouldn't be an issue. Doesn't even matter that part of it's covered. I switched out that power supply and that one's a little bit longer. So yeah, that's kind of it. I 3D printed these boxes for controlling it. Like the buttons. I used the standard LEDs. You can see LED blinking. That was the stock LEDs that came out of the cases, and then I just wired up some switches in there and the LEDs, and they split off. So these two buttons are for the 2700 power reset, power and reset for the Xeon. Same type of deal, power reset for 3770, power reset, you know, the server, and then the fan controls. So the motherboards don't have any way to be stood off of the wood. Sorry, it's still a work in progress, but because there are no standoffs in the wood, you can't really screw them down. What I did is I took 4 old junky cases and I cut the motherboard trays out of the bottom, and I don't think you can see that anywhere because I hid them so well, but I cut the trays out, and then the motherboards mount directly to a factory motherboard tray. Yeah, you can't see it, unfortunately. Yeah, so anyway, there's just motherboard trays on there, so I had to sacrifice 4 old crappy cases. Small price to pay. Use some punch steel to just make some, you know, guards for the radiators so they don't get damaged. I took some 1/2-inch aluminum 90-degree just angled stock, and then like machined some little grooves in it, and those are at the right distance apart to mount the stock holes for all of the radiators. So if I ever wanted to get rid of, let's say put a big 360 in and change the water loop, then I can just mount it right up and it won't give me any trouble. Just pop these off, unscrew it, pull it inside, you're done. Dunsky. So that's all that there is to that. Really, I don't know what else to say. I've answered pretty much all of the questions that everyone was asking me, and granted the pictures weren't great, but you know, this will be a little bit better. So all of the I use Thermaltake PCI Express ribbons to horizontally mount the video cards so that they will lay flat in the case. No big deal. Those are kind of spendy, but it is what it is, so they'll work good. Once I get the cable management box down here, everything will look all pretty and it'll be fancy and stuff. So, but right now, I'm just happy to have it working again, or have my computers working again. That's pretty much it. There was one more thing I was gonna say, but I can't think of what it is. Oh, to access any of the computers, like if I wanted to change drives or whatever, which was another question, how did I mount the drives? I just designed up some quick little 3D printed little stands. So I just made those with slots on top. So if I ever need to change out a drive, I just loosen up the screws and then pull it up and drop in a new drive. Done. Same thing here, except I made little sleds before I had the better idea to like stand them up. But these look kind of cool, all staged out there with some cheap little inland drives and whatnot. So this thing all works out great. It's easy to change drives. The only thing you got to do is pull out your drawer, move a monitor over, and all these glasses just slide right forward, and or you can pick them right up. So you have access to the inside of the computer in literally like 15 seconds. No big deal. Same thing here. You just move the monitor back, and you just grab this glass and you just slide it forward, and it just comes right off, and that's it. One of the things that I noticed about the other desks were that they just came straight down, and they were like a big, huge, sharp box, just like this. So you'd bang your shins or your knees on it a lot. So it was just essentially a box just like that. So I cut these on an angle, so now your legs just fit in there in a natural way, and it's great. So you get a little bit of air movement from the fans, and that's pretty much it. I just have to clean up the wiring a little bit by making my little cable shrouds, make my clips so that my water lines are grouped together like these little 4-clip things, so these things all look nice. It's mostly cable management and tinkering right now, but I'm actually having a lot of fun just using it, so I don't really care too much about it right now. This is the way it is. I made a lot of mistakes, and I would definitely do things a lot different. It would go a lot faster. This took about 3 months just tinkering in my spare time. But now I know how to build a desk like this and how not to build a desk like this. If anybody has any questions, I'll do my best. But all of this was done off of like a rough sketch, and then everything fell apart from there, and you had to just kind of figure it out as you went along. So a lot of things changed. This is offset inside an inch because I didn't realize that I have 3 of these big pieces of glass. They're chipped up on the edges a lot. This was the nicest piece. It happens to be an inch shorter. So this monitor stand had to be modified because this was supposed to be out further, and then the glass was longer. And the aluminum rails here that hides the RGB, I originally soldered all those connections in. That took forever. It kept failing, so I had to just buy the little connectors. Made things way easier. Most of the time consuming stuff was extending all of the wires for all of the fans, the water loop stuff, routing all of the wiring for all the switches and fan controls back, trying to hide it the best that I could. It's a lot more time consuming than you might think, but in the end I think it came out pretty sweet, and that is what it is really. 27 degrees and 50 still on the GPU at idle. So I hope that answers some of your questions. I hope y'all kind of take this idea and run with it, because I think that there's a lot of untapped potential for a design like this. I just kind of got sick of doing it and wanted to use it more than anything. So somebody with more skills than me, because I'm definitely not a woodworker, you could probably do some super awesome stuff with this. So that's what I got. That's the quad computer desk. I hope that you guys enjoy it. Take it easy.